Hello, welcome. We're going to take just a few moments and let people filter in for today's program. So go ahead and grab that fresh cup of coffee if you'd like. Reply to that last email and we'll formally begin the program in just about 1 minute. Thank you for joining us. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to give folks just another minute or two to filter in, and then we're going to begin our program on solving for the power of CPQ with HubSpot and DealHub. All right, it's 12:02 by my clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to today's web event. We're so excited to have you join us. My name is Doug Wendt. I am the President and Chief Growth Officer at Wendt Partners, and I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Eyal Orgil, who is the Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder of DealHub. So we're here to talk about a couple of things that are interconnected issues, but I want to sort of set the stage, right? When you are providing, when you are selling, when you are consulting around complex solutions, you have two challenges you have to solve for at the same time. And we're here to figure out how to solve for both of them. One is to create the right proposal, technically accurate, the right numbers, the right components, nothing missed. The other is to create a positive buyer experience. And if you are in the complex B2B world, you probably know that you can usually do one of those things. I can either have a gorgeous proposal that either took months to create or maybe has things missing, or I can have a technically accurate proposal that looks totally uninspiring and therefore it doesn't add any value to the buyer journey. To solve for both of those issues, we have to think out of the box. And that is why for the last 10 years, the team at DealHub has literally created a revolution in this space, closing this gap between the buyer journey and the right solution, the right proposal. And to help us through that discussion and explore what that means and how to solve for it, we have Eyal here from DealHub. Eyal is the Chief Revenue Officer. Eyal, welcome to our web event today. It's so great to see you again.
Hey, Doug, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate, always happy to tell more about DealHub and also the new ways that people can work.
Spectacular. And I want to just take a step back here, my friend, because you're a co-founder of the company. And I know, I mean, you worked as a marketing director and a product lead for a lot of companies in very complex B2B engineering and solution spaces before that. So tell us a little bit of the story of why DealHub? Why did you all decide when you co-founded the company that this was the problem you wanted to solve? I mean, there are a lot of problems that are easier to solve. Why did you decide to go after this really challenging nut to crack, which is complex proposals?
Well, first, I wish you would have told me that earlier, that it's going to be difficult, because it hasn't always been that easy. There's a lot of challenges involved, but definitely what we wanted to do is basically do things a little bit differently. Like you said, you have complex quotes out there and they just become really complex. How do you simplify that down? They don't have to be that complex. There are different ways to do things. You don't have to spend hours and hours putting things together. I'd done it throughout my career, previously in sales, from the days that you had mentioned of my marketing and all that, where I'd worked with a lot of different kinds of solutions, configuring them. Things were very complex. How do you put everything together? But I only saw the front end of it. I didn't see the back end of someone having actually to put it together. And they could be spending a lot of time writing code and different things to do that. And that's not the people who are putting that together. We tend to talk to people who are in the operations side, the business, sales, RevOps type people. They need to be able to put a solution together. So we said we need something simple for the salespeople to use, but we also need something that's easy to go and put together and modify as needed and make changes as go. As we're anybody in the tech space, at least, or other industries as well, you'll know that things are constantly changing all the time. And we also wanted something to think about the end customer as well. So we really looked at those three different elements and said there's got to be a better way to do things. Something that's good for the operations people, something that's good for the sales people, and something that's good for the end customer. It is a big challenge to get all those into balance and play, but we said there's got to be a different way. And that's where we headed out with the initial go-to, if you want, or our go-to market with that. I'll just say one thing. We came out with something at the beginning, said, let's have a CPQ up and running, ability to generate quotes in 48 hours. It doesn't quite take 48 hours. It takes a few more days than that, but it actually does it a lot quicker. And I think we've accomplished that. I'd be happy to discuss that as well, all those different elements.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw one other question on deck to kind of frame up the conversation, because it's one that I know a lot of people talk about and that I'm sure is really something you've dealt with from day one. Because I know you all, if I remember the history correctly, a big focus of your practice historically has been serving customers who are on Salesforce, Microsoft. Now you've really fueled the growth of the HubSpot ecosystem. We are honored to be your first HubSpot partner, and we love this partnership, and clients are getting benefit from it. But here's the curveball question. Why not just use, including HubSpot for that matter, which we'll get into in a minute, why not just use the CPQ tool from your CRM company? I mean, I think of the other two in particular, because certainly those folks have developed some form of CPQ capability. Salesforce has an entire module called CPQ. Why a third-party solution?
Well, I think a lot of the traditional and other CPQs tend to be more what I call the traditional CPQs, or the older generation of CPQs, where they basically took the problem that, or what you had on the CRM. I wouldn't call it the problem to start with. You have your product catalog and you have your price book. Oh, that's pretty good. Why don't I just do something so the salespeople can put those two together and generate a quote? So go pick your products, the price will be there and all done. Well, if you're going and putting the products together yourself, what's really interesting is the C and CPQ just became the salesperson. They're the configurator. They're the ones putting the logic. And that's what traditional CPQs do, is they put all the logic on the person doing it. So I call it a PQ and not a CPQ. We came and said, you need the ability to go and do that configuration. Now, sometimes the configuration is very simple. You got 2 or 3 products, maybe one dependency, and that's all it has to go to. And sometimes you've got several dozen products, or more, you've got tens of different options of things go together. There's dependencies, prerequisites, things will work with one thing and they won't work with another. And you can sell a certain product in one region and not in another. And all you have is a product catalog and a price book, you've got to go think of how to do that together. That's where mistakes creep in. And that's also part of what CPQ is about, is not letting salespeople or customer success or your deal desk people, whoever's building out the quote, you don't want them to get to a point where they make mistakes, not success. You don't want them getting to that point. You want to put some logic in there. So it's not that simple to go do it specifically on the CRM. CRMs are great tools. They're designed for one thing, but they're not designed to go put all that logic into it. And what we've done is really put a lot of work into giving you, the salesperson, a decisioning engine and a recommendation engine all in there to help them through that process. It's not something that comes out of the box in a CRM. So you do need some additional capabilities beyond what's there.
And actually, I love the way you framed that up, because HubSpot has not, said we've built a world-class CPQ like some of our competitors. And to your point, I don't think any CRM vendor out there, us included, the HubSpot ecosystem, has built anything like that, what you've created. I think that's a mythology. We should be clear. There is no CRM solution that I'm aware of, and I've been in the business a quarter century. Might as well lean into the experience and not just say I'm old, but I am. And so, I can say with assurance, none of the CRM vendors are experts at what you built, not even close. The nice thing is, I think in the HubSpot ecosystem, we know that. We knew this was a place to expand and to develop a partnership with the right solution provider, which is DealHub. Now, what's important, I think, to think about for all of us here is, how I mentioned earlier, we're trying to solve for creating the right proposal and also creating the right customer journey. There's a lot of talk about the frictionless sales process. And one of the important challenges in a complex deal is you need certain friction points. We're not just clicking and selecting a couple commodities off a website, right? The key here is to create a buyer experience that is as smooth as like an e-commerce commodity journey, but not mistake it for one. And so in the case of HubSpot, we have a robust quoting tool, but it's really designed for that pick and place and just put the like, I like it for its speed, but it doesn't configure. right? And therefore it's not really building a price. Like, it doesn't have that capability. What it does, it allows me to generate what I call a line item quote. I can throw that out there. It's right for that application. That's not the world I live in. It's not the world 95% of our B2B clients live in. The challenge is we want a great buyer experience. We want them to feel like this was easy, but we can't make it so easy that we're skipping critical steps. And we're going to talk about some of those here because, Eyal, you have developed them. You've created a whole approval process, a product logic, a solution selection, upsell capabilities. If you've got this, consider that, all for the sales engineer or whoever the person is building it. Just the approvals, or one thing that we're implementing in our own DealHub is modifications of terms and conditions based upon what products and services are on the agreement. Okay, because in our business, a digital project and a CRM implementation have some different risks, and therefore there are different MSA terms that have to be on those. So we got to make sure we get that friction right. We want a frictionless experience, but not at the cost of precision and, honestly, risk management. So with that in mind, first of all, what are your thoughts on some of what I shared there? And second of all, let's take a look at how DealHub, I'd love to experience a little bit of how you've constructed this, like your vision for DealHub and how that's come to life.
So basically what we want to do is we want to go and take a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of what happens with quotes, there's mistakes, things are being done wrong, the wrong contract terms, the wrong information goes back into the CRM. If we look at the CPQ, it's the front end to a long chain of events that happen after that. We're going back into our CRM, there's pipeline reporting, there's rev rec, there's invoicing, there's order fulfillment. If the data goes in wrong, it's going to be wrong later on in all those different stages. And it's really important to have that ability to go put the correct data in. To get the correct data in, you've got to get salespeople. Now, I'm a salesperson. So I'm going to shoot down salespeople for a second, just for a second.
Me too. Go for it. I can take it.
We're not stupid people. We just want to get to the deal quickly. We want to do things as quick as possible. When we're not happy about something, we like to complain a lot. And I usually tell operations people when I talk to them, I don't ask them how many reps they have. I say, how many complainers do you have? And they typically quite laugh or smile. And they know who they're talking about. You need something that's going to allow that salesperson to do the job they need to get done, give them the flexibility that they need along the way as well. Don't put too many guardrails in their place. Put the ones that have to be there, but give them the flexibility so they can go and get that information out to their customer. When I talk to a CRO, he's like, I don't care what they do as long as they get the quote out there and they close the business. You talk to the operations, no, we've got to have the right information going back as all these back-end processes, and you have to balance that. And obviously you can't let people go complete cowboy and do anything that they want, and you can't go too tight on them that they just can't get things done. So again, there's a balance that always happens over there. This is an extreme. When we do a project, we tell the customer, bring in the salespeople. We want them as part of the process. When we build out, and we'll look at the playbook in a few minutes, how we guide them through the process. We want them involved in it because we want them from day one being excited about it. We want them using it. We want it built for the way that they work. And that's how you get a success out of it. So if you've designed it for the salespeople with the limitations that need to be done by management and operations, that's the key to at least getting that first part of the success through of having a successful CPQ project.
Nailed it. And I like the fact that you're calling it a playbook. You're emphasizing, what are we trying to accomplish here? We're trying to provide the tools to make that salesperson successful. And what's important is that that success starts with the right solution proposal for the client.
Absolutely. And it has to be based as well on what we know about the customer. We don't start from scratch every time. We're not just throwing things together. We know we have an agreement with the customer for certain payment terms. We know what region they're in, so we know what kind of products we can sell them. So we want to take information that we already know about the customer and then take the salesperson through a process that's very formatted, structured to the way that they want to work, and make it then, what we talked earlier, frictionless. Make it just super simple that they can just go through. Sometimes in a matter of clicks, if you normally sell the same kind of products and services, just have a couple clicks. You don't have to go through a lot of different selections and all that. It can all be automated for you. Where needed, you can go in and dive in and make those changes as required.
Spectacular. Let's take a look at an example of a playbook in DealHub and start to see how you've made this possible. And then as we get a little bit later, we're going to talk about how DealHub and HubSpot create a seamless experience for your team as well.
Great. So let me go and share my screen. We don't want that. We want this screen right here.
Oh, there you go. We're already in HubSpot. Boom.
We're starting off in HubSpot. DealHub has created a CRM card, which contains all the critical information that we need. First of all, a few buttons here to go into DealHub where we can go create a quote or take a look at a quote that we've already worked on if we're working on different versions of it. We want to take a look at the approval process on that. And of course, we can keep track of anything that we've synced over. And if we have different quotes that we've already generated, obviously a demo environment, we've created several quotes. So we have those all synced back over into HubSpot. When I click on create quote, I'll go into the DealHub environment. This is what we're seeing right here. It's going to pull in all the essential information, what geography I'm in, because maybe I'm selling different products, what currency I'm in. It's going to pull that in automatically, and a lot of other things that we can go and synchronize in the background, like payment terms that we've already agreed to, or other kinds of things that are important to know about the customer. Obviously, the standard details, their addresses, the contacts, and all that are all going to be pulled in as well. This is the playbook process. Now, the playbook is basically a set of questions that we're going to ask the salesperson. We've actually broken it out into separate groups. We gave it a really cool name called question groups. Marketing wasn't working on that day, I guess. It's going to take the salesperson through a structured process. In my case today, right now, I've got a software SaaS solution. So I'm going to select my products and my project, services, contract changes. You mentioned that as well, so we can get the right contractual terms in there, and even add in some additional materials. Why do I want that? What I want to just send out some pricing. I really want to brand and put the right information, marketing type information, sales supporting information into my proposal. And that'll be where I can make those selections. And of course, all this is fully configurable. And as we go through the process, we'll see products automatically appear. So as a salesperson going back that I don't know too much, I don't need to think about it. The products are going to be simply set up for me. So as an example, how would we do that? I might get a question that says, what solution do you need? And I can provide tooltips as well in the form of text or images. Think of new onboarded hires. How do you get them up to speed very quickly? Give them the information to guide them, and then let them select their relevant product. So if I pick an enterprise solution, there's a few new questions that I need to ask. Obviously, things like how many licenses do I need of different types? But if I picked a different solution, a different set of questions appear. So automatically I'm presented with the next relevant questions. And what DealHub has already gone and done is built out the right products. I mentioned earlier, sometimes there's prerequisites or dependencies. That's all built into the logic. So automatically all the information appears for me, the right products, the right quantities, and so forth. Now, what happens, it's software SaaS, obviously it happens, but in other industries, when I sell more quantity, or if I'm selling in SaaS for a longer duration, I want that pricing to adjust. So all I need to do as a salesperson is just answer the questions that I typically would ask my customers. So how many users do you have? I'll randomly click here. Let's say they told me 429, and the price just dropped to $39. Now, $39, that's for 3 months for a quantity of 429. Let's go make this a 24-month agreement, and the price just dropped to $24, and actually my monthly subscription here just lowered as well. So automatically for the salesperson, it's gone and adjusted itself. On the operation side, we can actually do it on the same SKU, something we call multi-dimensional pricing. So I don't have to have, in the example I just gave, in a regular type of CPQ environment, I might have had to have 6 or 8 different SKUs. I just did all the same thing in 2 SKUs. So even simplified the back end for what's going on over here.
And I just want to add something to this that I think it's important to call out. It's not just one level. For example, in our own implementation, we have questions like, do you require single sign-on, SSO? And then there's a next question, which platform select among these? And then if they select none of those, like, the reason is because we have different costs associated with different SSO platforms that we need to integrate with HubSpot. There are 2 primary ones that do. Do you have one of those? Do you have another platform? We need to consider that. So you can actually create nested logic to keep the salesperson on track. So there's a lot of complexity. If you need to address it, you can. Obviously, you don't need to over-engineer, but DealHub can handle it. And I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, absolutely. We tend to refer to it as, I'll give an example now, as putting in guardrails around things so that you can't make that mistake. So if I look at my project, and regardless of what we're talking about here, but say if I had something called stay current, it would say how many years is your project, and the relevant years in this case would be 1 to 3 years. But if I gone and picked a new development, the question changed to how many months is your project, and you get a different set of values and maybe even default to go and push the rep to a certain direction. So we present that next relevant question and the only valid responses so that we get a valid configuration. Now, when we don't want to lock them in too much, we can allow more flexibility, and then we'll put an approval process, and I'll show that in a minute in an example as well. So we can go and have that ability. We're not going to lock the reps in. We don't want to put too many guardrails on top of them. But on the other hand, sometimes you do want to make sure that they're getting the right things in place. Even things like mandatory questions. You've got to answer certain things. You just can't go without it. Now, just on that example, sometimes we don't even ask a mandatory question. We just give them Premier automatically populates in there. You can go take it out, but it's already done for them. So that's a way that we can actually build out the playbook that I don't have to answer all these questions that I'm going through now, because this is just a demo environment. I might answer 1 or 2 questions. Everything else is automated for me. And it just puts out 5, 10, 20 line quote with all the requirements that I need for that specific customer.
Beautiful.
Now, looking at other things that you talk about contract terms. So I love this one. I always tell like a sales ops person, I'm going to let the salesperson change the payment terms. All of a sudden you see them cringe on the video, which is great. And you don't let a salesperson do that, but I've noted, let the salesperson know if you do that, finance is going to need to approve it. And when I come down to the bottom, I can see an approval process has opened up. Now, in my case here, I've done a more complex one where we got a couple people in the first step. It could be one or both of them. Think of a deal desk environment. So Dave or Ellen will select it, or sorry, approve it, and then it will go off to Mark. Now, this is actually a good place to talk about how we simplify actually putting this together. DealHub is all configured. There's no coding done. It's all logic driven. In this specific example, it's an if-then type statement. If you change the payment terms to 30 days, then here are the people that need to approve it. How many steps do I need? Who are the people? In the same way, all the questions appear as well. You build out the logic. It's all Boolean if you want the technical side of things. Boolean type logic. It's just putting in the right flows for that salesperson so that they don't select the wrong things or put the limits where you have to, put the approval process where we need them. Of course, approvals can go on to things like discounts and all kinds of other things. So really any kind of commercial, legal, or technical reason that you need to go out to an approval, you can put that in, or you can have all kinds of pre-approved selections that the salesperson can make as well that doesn't need to go under certain conditions to an approval process.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. And on behalf of the audience here, I can say, let's say that, if these services are selected and the contract value is X, that if the customer wants to go to a 2-year contract instead of a 1-year contract, that the sales rep is authorized to maybe give up to a 15% discount. But if they want more than that, then they would have to put that in and it could go through an approval workflow. So I can give them, like you said, guardrails. And it's not what I'm trying to get at is it's not either or. It's not you have the guardrail means that you're in a straitjacket, or we have no guardrails and it's a free for all. You can literally give people room to have the authority to make reasonable decisions and selections and see those changes in real time.
Yep.
Or if they want more, then they can go through the approval process.
Absolutely. You can build in whatever conditional type logic that you require. Under certain cases, it's going to have to go to approval. Other cases, it doesn't have to. If you're a certain type of salesperson out of a certain level, you can go for a higher level discount that you can offer. If you're in a certain territory selling certain products, you can have other logic that's based off of that. So it's very easy to set that up, but you set it up exactly for your different sales teams, the different regions you're selling to, and whatever other business logic you need to have driving that. You're able to easily go and build that out to fit your specific needs on the operation side and on the sales rep side as well.
That's really spectacular. There's so much power under the hood here. You've made it so clean and easy to use. It's easy to forget. Like we said at the beginning, we're trying to make this easy to use, but also extremely powerful. You can have both.
Absolutely. And we'll maybe dive into a couple more things over here because you mentioned some things about selections. For example, you could allow a seller, this is also, I love this one, allows them to cringe over here and say, oh, no, don't let them change the terms over here. We actually added in a really cool capability where you can go and chat with someone else on the team. So I can actually go and find someone else on my team, say it's my legal team member, it's Adam over here. I'll drop him a note. Adam gets a message, he can come in here. So now I'm collaborating in a quote, and Adam is going to have the access over here because he's the legal contact. He's able to go make the changes. Once he's done, he'll give back control to me. But if in another situation, I may want the salesperson to be able to make changes on their own. So I just call this pre-approved change clauses and maybe remove an automatic renewal, or there's a yearly increase and they're given a range that they can go and make the selections in there. So different ways to adapt to different conditions, different ways that you're selling, whether I need to work together as a team. And there I showed an example of a legal agreement. It could have been an SOW that I'm working on, or a payment schedule, or anything else that I want, a delivery schedule. I could work together with other team members to make changes. And I can also have things that I can have pre-approved for me. It may require still an approval because you maybe want removing automatic renewal. Someone needs to get some eyeballs on that. We can have that ability to do that. And then I'll just take another second here, show a few more things. Here I talk about additional materials. And this is where I like to say DealHub can become a recommendation engine. Say I want to put together some sort of case study with my proposal. Well, DealHub read in from HubSpot what region I'm selling into. It obviously knows what product I'm configuring. And if you've ever gone to a marketing person and say, what's the right case study I need? They're going to say, well, who's the customer? Where are you selling it to? What are you selling? And DealHub can already recommend for us the relevant case studies or other kinds of content. So a lot of this extra work to really make it a personalized proposal that's exactly right for the customer, we can have that all set up in a series of questions over here. So really makes it easy. And obviously we're just showing all kinds of different options that you can do. You can add in external content. You can, all kinds of things. Really, it's unlimited in terms of the types of ability you can have for that salesperson to go and personalize their proposal.
Guided selling, really.
Absolutely. It really is guided selling the way it should be.
Eyal, just go back up for a second. I wanted to point out one other thing that I saw there, which is you're allowing the salesperson, without having to go hunt for other documents, to essentially build their best foot forward sales solution presentation here. What slides do you want to include? What case studies? Do you want any other content? Do you want to include the full SOW? Do you want to add a promotion? Like, this is helping the salesperson say, how do I want to craft my pitch to win? So this is really important that we're not just configuring the stuff. We are configuring the pitch, not just the product.
Exactly. And what we have in this section over here specifically, where we talked earlier, it was product and the pricing people that helped us put together the proposal. Now it's marketing coming over here. And we can take content from your content management system, obviously, if you have the right content over there. But this is helping marketing, helping the salesperson guide them to putting the right content that they need in their proposal to make it a winning proposal, the right information in front of the customer at the right time. So definitely, and there's a whole host of different things you can do, either automate it or give it selectable, or give them the right group of content to select from so they don't make a mistake. You don't put a case study of a manufacturing company if you're talking to a software company. You can have all those that logic in place so the right information will be able to be presented to the customer. Maybe what I'll do is I'll give you a little taste as well, things like the discounting. Obviously, the salesperson, or I like to call it, the salesperson gets to this point, this is their creative side of things comes out. What we call a product summary is really just a salesperson's worksheet where they can start to do some manipulation. So they can come in and discount on a line level, or if they've negotiated with the customer already, $230,000, plug that in. DealHub will actually lock off that price because you said that was a fixed price that I negotiated with my customer. What you could also do is provide an overall discount, or if the customer gave you their budget, $300,000, plug that in and DealHub will go and set the discounts automatically. And obviously, if you try to give too much discount, it'll scream at you and say, no, you can't do it. And it'll tell you where you can get to. But what's really interesting, what we see on the screen is the discounts actually didn't spread equally. And that's because there's another layer of logic. Again, not to make it more complex, but actually to make sure we can adapt to your needs, is if we notice the second line got 50%. The first line obviously was locked off, so that discount stayed. But the second line got a different discount. And why is that? Well, it's not always in the software industry, but in other industries, we sometimes have certain costs on products that we're selling, and we've got to protect certain margins over there. So you can go and set maximum discounts that the salesperson is able to give, and that way we're going to protect that margin that we need. Now that again can also have logic, because if I'm selling, for example, into an emerging market, maybe I have to be more competitive, so I go up to 25 or 35% discount on the same product. So DealHub can take all that into account and make sure it puts the right logic. One other thing that's super unique that we have running in the background right now, but we could always present this to the salesperson, is a whole bunch of other data points that we have at the line level. People in the SaaS world are going to all of a sudden see ARR, incremental ARR, or margins or things like that. We have a lot of data points that we can keep on the individual line. Now, I could have chosen to present it to the salesperson over here. In this case, I just kept the screen simple, but that information might be used for an approval process because I need to send off an approval based off of a margin, or it might be to sync information back to HubSpot because I need to do a lot of other calculations, my rev rec and things like that. What percentage of a product gets attributed to a certain salesperson or other kinds of things that I want to do. So basically, in any number of unlimited amount of data points or attributes that you want to put at the line level, those can be captured. Some of those are calculations, and we can sync all that back to the CRM so it can flow back through your back-end process. There's a whole lot of power even behind the scenes of what we don't have to show the salesperson, but we can run those calculations.
So we're helping strategic executive leadership make sure that the metrics are following the strategy. We're protecting the salesperson with guardrails, but giving them the power they need to build the most profitable proposal, or the proposal that's most likely to win the deal, because we've got to find that balance in every opportunity. And at the same time, we're collecting and reporting the metrics necessary to look at our sales performance and make new strategic decisions about how we do even better next quarter.
Absolutely. Everything that you would need to understand how a quote was put together, including all the questions that were answered. If you want to run some BI analysis, who picked what products under what conditions and what day of the week, or how the product was actually priced and what were the different elements behind the scenes. Like I said, things like cost margins or other kinds of strategic points that you talk about. All of that is captured. All that goes back in. So you get a whole host of information. And all we have to do is ask some questions from the salesperson. We can run a whole lot of calculations. So sales had it simple. We got it. We can present it. We'll talk about the presentation to the customer in a second. We've got all those data points that we can sync back and have exactly what we need back into our CRM and obviously further into back-end processing.
And let's just take a moment there and click back on the first tab, because I want to talk about how DealHub and HubSpot sing together. And then we'll take a look at the deal room and how the customer experience is built.
Sure.
So just a couple of things I want to point out here for those who may not have a background in HubSpot. We're looking at the HubSpot CRM platform. We call it HubSpot Sales Hub. This is a particular deal record. Okay, so think of it as an opportunity record. And what you're seeing here is right up here on the right, you're seeing the company or companies that this deal is related to. And then you're seeing the DealHub section. So I can create the quote from here, view quotes from here. I may have multiple quotes created against this opportunity, and an approvals dashboard to see the status and direction of these items, as well as the information associated with the deal. So I can access DealHub without leaving HubSpot. I can go right into that, perform those actions, and then let's go ahead and down and look at that DealHub quotes piece. So this is the history of your quote activity. And these are called, we call these in HubSpot, we call these CRM extension cards. So each of these cards allows us to show summary information, and then where you see the teal boldface text, that means that's a hyperlink. So all of this is hyperlinkable. It's going to take us right to the individual quote records in DealHub. So these two systems are not only literally, we're embedding DealHub functionality in HubSpot, but Eyal, to your point previously, you're also feeding data back to HubSpot. So there's data moving. So it's both. It's a toolkit. I'm in my deal record in HubSpot. I'm ready to create my proposal in DealHub. Boom, click a button. It's pulling data over from HubSpot, and I'm doing that. Then later, as the updates are happening, the progress, the yes or no on the deal. Did we win this quote? What was the final price? That data is coming back into HubSpot to give us full sales analytics. So it really is a complete closed loop process. And I just want to call out, there are over 1,000 third-party integrations between HubSpot and other technologies. And I have worked with hundreds of them. And DealHub has been building this engine, this integration, for basically a couple of years, 2 years. And this is one of the most robust and well thought out native integrations available between HubSpot and any third-party platform I've ever seen. And that's why we love it. We recommend it. We use it. You're seeing right here that DealHub and HubSpot are literally operating as your unified hub for sales operations success. So just wanted to call that out, because this is not like 2 minutes of work. This was an enormous strategic and technical commitment that DealHub made to the HubSpot ecosystem. And I have to say, Eyal, you guys have done it right. Thank you.
Cool, cool. Always great to hear that it's working right for people. Super to hear that.
100%. Our clients say the same thing, as do we. All right. So we talked about, and you showed us through the power of building the right proposal. Now let's talk about showing the right proposal and then winning that proposal.
Absolutely. So let's go back into where we were, and we've gone and built out our proposal. We made the adjustments that we've needed. I didn't highlight just a second ago, though, we've got more approval workflows just because we happen to have changed the pricing. Now, just before we go how to show it, one more thing that we do is we simplify the process for those approvals. One of the worst things about approvals is they become a bottleneck. And what we've done around that area is made it possible to customize the message that goes out to each approver. So if Steve, Tim, or Teresa are different, obviously they're different levels of the organization and want to see different information, we can customize the message that goes out to them and then make it really simple. That could be an email message or a Slack message formatted exactly for the information that they want. And they can simply respond to that email or respond to that Slack and approve or reject it. Or there's a dashboard if they want, they can always dive in as well from their phone or from their desktop. So really simplified that process as well. Once that's all ready though, let's take a look at our document. We're going to just look at a preview of it. Now, what we can do is have different templates that we're able to interact with, or we could have already preset the template. So only a specific template based maybe on the region that I'm selling into or the product line that I'm selling. One other thing though, to help those salespeople now make it the solution that they want to present, we talked about different content they can include. Well, we could do other things like maybe they don't want to show a cover page or a cover letter, or maybe when it comes to the discounting, what they want to do is they want to put all the discounts just on the overall proposal, or maybe they want to do it on the line level, and sometimes they want to hide the discounting completely as well. So different options that the salesperson could have selected from the playbook, and then the document will generate accordingly. So here's the document that we just generated now. We put a cover page on here, obviously with the name of the customer and the date. First of all, it's right out there in bold. There's a watermark. Why? Because it's a preview. We don't want the salesperson sending it off. These are all configurable things that you can set up, but in this case, I don't want them sending it out. What I've gone and done is set up a cover letter, and what's highlighted in red is the selections I made in the playbook or calculations that I made. So it was a $300,000 net price. There's the discount. So in a matter of seconds, I've got a document that's already formatted exactly the way that I want it, with all the supporting materials that I want, anything that's needed, again, dynamically or selectable. There's the case study for Forrest Associates. I selected that myself. Here's my pricing. When it came to the pricing to present to the customer, I actually broke it out into software and services. And there's various ways that we can break it out, either automatically or let the salesperson select it. And if you notice, when it comes to services, I don't want to get into a discount discussion, so I completely left that column out. Whereas up above in software, I want to show the actual pricing that I'm giving to the customer. So again, just different ways that we can go and have the information formatted for the customer. Maybe we'll run some subtotals, maybe even show them some ramped up pricing over the next few years. What's the pricing? So DealHub can run a whole lot of calculations. And of course, we can sync all this information back to HubSpot as well if you want to keep track of that. It's all available to be synced back to the CRM.
And Eyal, I just want to call out something that you alluded to earlier, which is when you're in complex B2B, you are often packaging up a total solution that consists of products, services, and potentially costs that are part of the project but aren't going to be actually invoiced by you. For example, when we implement HubSpot, the client fills out and signs off on a separate quote from HubSpot, which is just a required way that we're contracted to do business. But we are the solution provider, and we want to be able to show the client the total cost of their solution. So we can put things in here, we can calculate that aren't necessarily going to be on our signed agreement, that they could show TCO. In addition, if you are in an engineering field, AEC, architecture, engineering, construction, if you are a company that, for example, sells products that are going to be then purchased and used in a construction project or in an industrial project, you want to be able to show all the different components of the investment, including products and services distinctly. DealHub can support that use case, and we're seeing it right here.
Yeah, actually, when you talk about things like construction, examples I like to give is sometimes you've got different parts of your bill of materials that need to go to different parts of the building, or maybe are put into different pallets. And all those are things, are questions that we could have asked in the playbook of how to organize things as well. So beyond just breaking out products into different categories, there's different flexibility here to go and set up exactly how you want to present that information to the customer. Sometimes it's subgroups or sub companies, parent and child companies that you have, which products go to which, and all those things can all be handled by DealHub as well and presented accordingly in the documents. Terms and conditions, the automatic standard ones, and there's the ones that we changed. So I removed the automatic renewal, 6% increase, 60-day payment terms. Even if you're selling to different entities, remember I said we read in the region that we're selling into. So automatically, that's a legal requirement. You got to put the right entity. You're going to be paying taxes in the wrong places. You want to make sure that the document is exactly right without the salesperson making mistakes. So typically, you'd say go pick the template for selling to a different country. In this case, it's all automated. The salesperson doesn't have to think about too much. We don't want them making mistakes. We just want to present them exactly what they need to get out to the customer. So that is a typical way or the traditional 1980s and 90s way of generating proposals, put it in a PDF document. Of course, you could put out a Word document, not recommended because obviously things can change. But when it comes to redlining, that's a whole other category we can go into with DealHub that we can support. But obviously, we want to put that out in a PDF document. The more engaging way to go and connect with customers, being that it's 2023, is we want to share content in a much more engaging manner, in a digital manner, in a kind of sales room or digital deal room. And that's exactly what DealHub's deal rooms are for. We can send out a link to a customer. That's an email that can be composed right in DealHub and sent off to the customer, or the rep can just take the link, send it off, and we've got a deal room that's presented to the customer. So it's all fully branded to the look and feel. This is probably not your latest look and feel, Doug. I quickly tried to find one that we had.
Yeah, no, this is fine. Go for it.
Are we still on there? Okay, great. I wasn't sure if the branding is still on target.
It is on point, my friend. Wendt Partners implement innovation, 100%.
Excellent. So here would be an example of Doug sending out a proposal. He can have that intro already boilerplated for him, so he doesn't have to think too much. It's just out there, go, bang, get it out to the customer. That could have been adapted as we saw a moment ago in the document, or of course he can edit it. And then he wants to get certain information out about the company, about the success of the company. Maybe put in a short video. Now, in this case, we just took it from YouTube, Vimeo, wherever you're hosting it. And he could have changed the content, or based off the type of customer that he's selling to, he wants to have the right content to go out to the customer. So again, automate it or selectable.
Think of a customer testimonial that you think is particularly similar to the use case that you're providing. And then in addition, if you just scroll back up, you'll see here that we've organized. So these are just some of the components of our business growth solution model. This happens to be an example where we're focusing on strategy. So we're emphasizing the strategy components. This has our icon library, our font library. It is a thing of beauty. Even the blue sky background is part of our brand system. So this is completely skinned in our brand, not just throw a logo in. It's the whole thing. It's immersive.
Yeah. And like you said, testimonials. So again, the content either automatically selected. What's the right customer logos to show the customer? Maybe we want to show, obviously, our pricing. One of the things I didn't talk about that DealHub can also do is provide several different options to customers. And we could have presented those different options right here in the deal room as well. One of the next great things we're going to be doing coming out in 2024 is making it possible for customers to actually select the option that they want on their own. So really have that B2C experience, even if you're in a B2B environment. So here we're just showing one option, but we can definitely show multiple options to the customer. And later on, they'll be able to select those themselves. And of course, there's a lot involved in that because the document has to be exactly as you want it. We have to sync the right information back. So it's not just, something that simple, but we'll have that functionality all built in. Terms and conditions, online forms. This is really great for a couple reasons. I like to always give a personal example. Not one of my salespeople gets called up by our accounts receivable people saying, what's the address of the customer? Where do I have to send the invoice out to? Which probably any organization can relate to that. The customers fill out the information. We can preload the information. They can adapt it. This information already goes onto the document that we're going to sign off on, and it actually can sync all the way back into HubSpot as well, into Sales Hub. So you have all that information captured, what the customer provided. And then what DealHub also provides is the ability to go sign off electronically. We have our own e-signature. We also support DocuSign. So whichever way you want to work, it could be a single signer. It could be multi-signer. And one thing that's really unique, all of a sudden your customer said, I need another signer. We don't have to send it all the way back and get it resent to the customer. They can simply dynamically add additional signers. So we can support something very unique with multiple signers in a dynamic fashion. We can do other things like append documents. We have a Dropbox environment right in the DealHub, something we call DealBox, where you can add additional documents. We have Deal Chat, which is the ability to go and chat, just like I showed a moment ago when we're building out the quote. We can actually do that as part of engaging with the customer as well. So I've sent a quote out. When Doug sent a quote out to me, say, I'm going to get on a chat with him. And obviously, if we're not online, that can go out through a Slack message. We can communicate. I'll tell Doug, hey, can you adjust the pricing? He goes in, modifies the pricing. All I need to do is refresh the page and bang, I've got my new pricing right there in front of me and any other content that's changed. So a really engaging way to do it. And of course, I can invite multiple people into the process over here. And as a salesperson, I can track the engagement. I have what's called a deal stream. I can go in, track the engagement of all the people coming into the deal room, if they're looking at the content, sharing it, filling out a form, downloading it, because sometimes they want a PDF version of that. And as a manager, I can actually dive in and see the deal stream of all my team members. So my salesperson saying, yeah, they're engaged. I can go in and check it if I want and see who's engaging with all my different sales team members, all the different actions they're having with their customers. So really a whole host of capabilities that we have through the deal room to make it an engaging environment and giving you the ability to understand if there's buyer intent there from your customers as how they're engaging with the deal room itself.
I know it's not part of our build right now, but can you show that that document management piece, the deal I'm sorry, deal box? Did I use the right name?
Yeah, you know what? I have to go. I don't know if I have it.
Oh, if you don't, that's okay.
I didn't pull up. I didn't pull up one of the deal rooms. This is a deal room that doesn't have that on there. But basically, it's just a drag and drop. You'll just find an open area where you can drag in a document and you can download a document. Really simple. Just give you the ability to drag and drop. I should be able to speak at this point. Drag and drop content into that, and anybody can view that content as well. One last point about the deal room, because sometimes it's a security concern. Deal rooms can come in what we call a public mode, where anybody can come in, or a private mode. You can control exactly who can come in and take a look at that content. So you have some additional layers of security on top of that to make sure not just anybody can see the quotes that you're sending out to customers.
And let's take a look at some of these other examples. I mean, I love our deal room, but let's see some. I know you've got some set up there to show
I got a couple
the power
more
of the deal room.
So you can see an example of one maybe for Gong that they might use. You might want to look at something like Whoop. You know, they're more in the B2C environment, so they like to have a little more animation. Obviously, these are ones that we created for them. It's not the actual ones, but it's really cool. You make it a really engaging experience. You can see the animations over there and all that. And that's up to the customer to go and set up on their own. Everything in DealHub can be adjusted by the customer. They don't need us. You don't need Wendt to go and set that up if you want to make those changes. Hopefully, I'm not taking business away from you. Yeah, go to Wendt.
You're fine.
You can make those changes. You can add the new content that you need. Very simple to go and manage it. So you're continuously staying current with what you need to go and get out to your customers. So you can really make some engaging experiences over here with your customers.
One of the things that actually we're planning to do probably in January is go through a number of the examples and look for best practices that we can use to up our game even further. I mean, I love our deal room, but I know that we're just scratching the surface of how interactive we can make it. And even though we're in B2B, we're not selling things that normally we're doing 3D renderings of. The fact of the matter is, more engaging is more engaging. I always talk about the fact that, yes, B2B is different than B2C, but guess what? Buyers in both industries are humans. And the more we appeal to humans, the more successful we're going to be with any proposal experience. I know you've got one or two others if you want to take a moment and show us around.
And then the other ones up, those are the ones I had.
Oh, okay. Got it. Nice. So I'm curious, let's talk a little bit about your roadmap. You alluded to a couple of the things that you're planning to work on or that you're working on for release next year. Where do you see this world going? The whole CPQ world. And of course, you're taking it on a different path, which is really sales enablement that comes with complete and superpowered CPQ for the ride, as opposed to what typically is done, which is what we alluded to earlier, which is, look, I can give you a proposal that's accurate, that looks like the 1980s called and wants its proposal back, or I can give you a great web experience that has no underlying engine power. The fact that you've committed to doing both, and that's what we've seen for the last better part of an hour, but that also means your roadmap's going to be different than others. Tell us where DealHub is heading over the next year to 18 months as you see it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we try to provide for the sales organization a solution that will take them right through from that initial engagement with the customer all the way through closing out the deal. Where DealHub is going is a lot more into more than just quote to cash or quoting is to quote to cash or quote to revenue, is we've expanded our capabilities. One of the things that we didn't talk about today, and happy if we may have another session one time, is our CLM capabilities, because we talked about the ability to go generate the right document. We've come up with the ability to allow redlining. So right from the deal room, we can pull out content and we can modify it. So the legal team can go back and forth. They like to use Word documents. Great. Go use a Word document, make the changes. We can upload it back in, compare the old version and the new version. If you like it, great. Get it off to a signature. So that's stuff that's come out and we're enhancing that. We're going to enhance that whole.
For those who just aren't clear, CLM, contract lifecycle management, we're talking about that nightmare that I know our business attorney is all over me about, right? Which is we got to make sure that everything we sign is in one place, and that we can go back and see what do we make an exception to for this client.
Absolutely. So that's actually where we're going to expand a little on that. We have that basic CLM capability today. It's not really basic, but we have that ability to do that, those changes. Where we're going to go to is a contract repository. So you have one central location where the legal people want to be able to see the contracts and run searches on it. That could be like AI searches. Show me all the contracts where I gave limited liability over a certain amount, or where I'm at risk in other areas, and they can do searches off of that content. So that'll give me the ability. Today, we do send the contract back into HubSpot, so it's there.
Right.
We also give them a repository that they can go do a lot of searching on and analysis of their contracts. Another area that DealHub went into at the beginning of the year is billing, and we're expanding on that capability. So now you can go all the way through to revenue. You can go and set up your billing schedules. You can go and manage your subscriptions. You can go and send that off to your invoicing systems, whether using a NetSuite or a QuickBooks or anything like that. You can build out your billing schedules, go back, make some changes, send it back out so the invoices are always correct when they go out. And we can integrate with a lot of different systems. So you can all of a sudden have a complete integration from your HubSpot through DealHub billing all the way to NetSuite. You don't even need another connector in the way. DealHub's going to do all that connection for you. So that's another area we're doing a lot of expansion into that. So all of a sudden you've got that ability, like I said, from initial engagement, building out your initial contact with the customer, building out a budgetary quote, get it to a full quote, get the contract in there, send it off, manage the subscription, and send it off to invoicing all in one platform. You're able to do that. And that's what DealHub can provide you. And we're expanding all those capabilities a lot more.
Eyal, I also want to call out another thing that I know from the implementations that we've done with DealHub, because typically for us as a HubSpot solution partner, we're seeing use cases that come to us from one of two scenarios. Either it's a company coming off of, let's say, a Salesforce and a Salesforce CPQ, or another CRM and a third-party CPQ tool, or no CPQ tool, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the first is a migration, and then the second is a new introduction. They don't really have a proper CRM or any CPQ. They're coming in and we're building that solution for them. So in about half of our use cases, we have to look at how they're doing things now, make sure we're not missing anything, bring that process over, make it easier, more effective, more efficient, but still make sure that we protect the integrity of what they're already doing. And the other half of the use cases we're literally creating from nothing. But what is interesting is, at least in a good portion of our projects, we have clients who have other tools at the table, particularly ERP systems. In fact, we have clients who have multiple ERPs because they are a company that's rolled up divisions or acquisitions. And so they've got, an Infor ERP product over here, and they've got an Epicor ERP product over there. This is a real world scenario I'm talking about. We have other clients who actually have to interface. They may be a distributor or an engineering firm that has to interface, or a system integrator. They have to interface with data coming from other systems where there's no API access. It may be EDI, it may be nothing at all. What's been fascinating for me, and now I'm getting into the IT end of things, the technical weeds. So we've really been focusing on customer experience, user experience. What I also want to make sure is clear is, because again, I've seen when this is real and I've seen when it's vaporware. In the case of DealHub, we have been able to work with your team to create complex, bespoke, API-based integrations, or even non-API-based solutions to create that unified environment in a world where a client has two ERP systems, a document management system. Maybe there's a legacy CRM in this other division that's still part of the picture, and then they're doing their core HubSpot implementation. And we got to connect all those dots together, and we've been able to do it. So I really think it's important to understand for our audience, our attendees, whether your use case, is simple in both the business case and the technical case, whether it's a complex business case and a relatively simple tech stack, or whether it's complex. Okay, we've got a complex use case. What we do, takes 3 rocket scientists, and we have a client that pretty much literally is doing that. And we have a complex tech stack. We've been able to take HubSpot Enterprise and DealHub and 100% meet each of those clients' application environments, and not take 3 years to do it, by the way. And I think that's really a testament to the work of your team in creating an open architecture platform that is designed to connect. Before we move into some audience Q&A, can you take a moment and share, because obviously you started and you built a platform designed to connect with multiple CRMs. And yes, we're HubSpot people. We're here to talk about the Orange Sprocket. But you know what? There's a strategic advantage for everything I've just described by the fact that you've created a platform that can interconnect across the board. What are some of the things that you've done to make DealHub so easy to play with other systems? Because I know you've pointed out we've had clients who one division's moving to HubSpot today, another division is moving to HubSpot in a year, and we know that we could set both of those divisions up with DealHub, and we could move that one division off Salesforce to DealHub, in a matter of a couple of weeks when the time is right. Let's talk about how well DealHub plays with others.
Well, first and foremost, we wanted the solution that was able to adapt to the way the customer works. We didn't want to come in and say, this is the way you need to work. So it was first and foremost, we said, you mentioned at the beginning, we took a platform that's not connected specifically to any kind of CRM. It's agnostic. It works with different CRMs. And actually, it's not even weeks ago, we had customers move from one CRM to another in a matter of half a day. It's a matter of mapping the fields because all the logic is in DealHub. So that was originally how we started it. And then we started looking at how we needed to connect. So providing our own APIs that people can come in and pull information from us, for allowing us the ability to call out. So whether the ERP is your pricing master and I need to get pricing in real time from the ERP, so send a couple attributes, what color I need, what size, what quantity, and get the price back from the ERP. So these are all things that we built into the solution so that we're able to do that because we realize people have different kinds of environments, different systems. They master their data or their source of truth is in different locations. It's not always just the CRM. And that's what we built the solution to do that. And we continue to expand on those capabilities, a whole bunch of different areas. Obviously, different industries require different things, and we want to be able to adapt to that. We're not locked to one specific industry. We've got customers from manufacturing to services to obviously tech companies and a host of other things, medical companies, pharmaceuticals. So really, we can touch on all kinds of different things. They all have different needs and they all have different systems. And we've just built a solution thinking of that foremost. How do we connect between them?
And actually, one of the questions that we did get from our audience members, what industries would you describe as the primary or best fit use cases for DealHub? What are the sectors or the kinds of industries where you've had the most impact?
We work with a lot of different industries. Obviously, tech is a huge area. Tech really love things like guided selling because it's really, it's straightforward. Sometimes you're in an industry where you need to pick products in different ways, and we have ways to go and filter. We didn't talk about those today. We can filter through products and just get down to the products that you need. So some industries are very complex. So like I said, it goes across the board from tech to manufacturing. We've got a major housing development company in the UK. You actually go in and you can configure the house that you want. In which house, each floor, what kind of carpeting or hardwood flooring do you want, the countertops, the number of plugs you want, the number of windows, and things like that. So we can do that as well. So we've got a whole host of different industries. Really, we're across the board. It's just a matter of configuring the interface for the salesperson based off of the way that they go and build their proposals.
So I think that's something to really lean in. You've been able to serve a number of a good range of complex sectors, in part because you can really customize that playbook to the nature of the salesperson's process, the nature of their customer journey. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. It's exactly what it's about. Yep.
What is, as a closing question, before we wrap up, what is one thing that you think people need to put on their radar about the future of complex solution-based selling, this world that we live in?
Well, I think the thing you have to think about is you have a salesperson that needs to do it. So it has a certain simplicity to it. You also have changes that are going on all the time, and you have to adapt to that. So you can't keep changing the way salespeople work. Give them a process where they can go in, like we like to say with the playbook, ask the right questions, put the logic in the background, let the people who know how to put that logic together work on that in the background, give the salespeople an easy experience. Again, I'm a salesperson, so I like it when it's simple. Just make it simple for us. Allow the changes to happen in the background. And the way we do those changes all through configuration, no coding. So it's easy to adapt very quickly to any kind of changes that are happening in the organization.
No code, adaptable, easy to use. We saw the user interface for the user as well as for the customer, and we're adding a really powerful and, quite frankly, enjoyable buying experience for the customer. That's the right formula for success. Eyal, I want to thank you for taking time to join me. If anybody has questions, please think about if you feel like a CPQ solution is a critical piece of your technology roadmap for revenue RevOps in 2024, please reach out to us. And by the way, we're happy to have that discussion. Obviously, we're HubSpot, we're Sprocket peeps, but at the same time, if you're like, look, we want to consider HubSpot, but we need to move on this now. We don't care which one comes first. So feel free to reach out. We'll have the conversation. You've heard right here from the Chief Revenue Officer at DealHub about that future that we are building together. Eyal, thank you so much for your time today. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Doug, and thanks for everybody for taking the time today.
Thank you all so much. For our American friends, we hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. We will be sharing out a copy of this recording. Please feel free to share it with your colleagues. And of course, we'll also be publishing the recording on YouTube after Thanksgiving. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day and a great week. And again, Eyal, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, bye-bye now. And again, thanks. Have a good day.